What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Talkin Football podcast. This is another scouting report video that I'm doing. This is episode 3 of that. Today, we're going to be going over the wide receiver draft class, and I'm just going to hit the intro. Nothing else to say. All right, so this draft class is a little bit different than it has been recently. It's not as stacked, but it's still pretty good. It's definitely a little bit deeper in like the second and third round than it has been recently. The top receivers aren't super. They're not number ones. If these guys were in last year's class behind Neighbors and Marvin and BTJ, Ladd, Odunze, they would have been fifth, sixth, seventh ranked guys. But that also is with a stacked wide receiver class. So let's just get right into the scouting reports, and we are going to start with Tet McMillan, or as I like to call him, T-Mac, and many people do because it's much easier to say his name that way. T-Mac from Arizona, he is 22, he is 6'5", and he weighs 212. So he's got a good build in terms of height. Weight isn't great, and I'll get into that in a little bit. Let's talk about his pros. Again, his height, he's able to track down jump balls very easily. He can make pretty much any catch. He's great. Again, like I said, those jump ball areas, those corner fades. He's good in the post areas. He's good in the quote unquote deep play balls. He's really good in. He's also solid in the intermediate ranges. The short range, he's not amazing in, but again, I should clarify, he can make any catch, but it's more of the how useful is he going to be in like a screenplay or something like that. But he's good. He's got good height. He's a good route runner, especially being 6'5", and usually don't see that. He reminds me a lot of Michael Thomas when he was in his prime with the Saints. Michael Thomas was a very good route runner. He was very reliable. He could make pretty much any possession catch. It wasn't great in the jump ball areas like T-Mac is, but he could still make any catch that he really needed to, and he was a good grinder, if you want to say that. He was able to really make a lot of catches for Drew Brees, and he was able to do pretty much anything that they needed him to do. I think T-Mac can do that. I have him in mock draft 1.0 going to the Panthers at pick 8, if I remember right. And that's what the Panthers need him to do. They need him to be a Michael Thomas to get over around 100 catches a year, which is a lot to ask, or at least 85 plus, I should say. That would be a little bit more realistic. And get those, not just the jump balls, but the intermediate stuff too that can set the tone for a drive. I mean, if you come out on 1st and 10 with T-Mac and you're throwing across the middle with a quick slant and he can get it for around 8, 9, 10 yards, that sets the tone for your drive. You're going to be throwing the ball well. You're going to ground and pound. If it's 2nd and 1, you can run up the middle, get that first down. And in 2 plays, you already have a first down and you're already 10 yards closer to the end zone than you were to start the game. That's the kind of player that T-Mac is, that he can be, especially if he can continue the way he played in Arizona in the NFL. And like I said, he's reliable. That kind of goes without saying. He was very good with drops. In Arizona, he didn't have many. So his low light reel is very short if he has any. Let's talk about his cons. He's got very average speed. He does not blow me away with his speed. And it's kind of hard to find cons on T-Mac because I do like him a lot. He's one of the better prospects in this draft class. But I will say I do think that he doesn't have game-breaking speed. He's not going to scare you in that way. And that is something that concerns me. And you either have speed or you don't. T-Mac doesn't have it. And I think that's something that can maybe hurt him because that's what makes a 10-yard gain a 12-yard gain or a 20-yard gain. You know, if you're making a crosser, which is what T-Mac is good at, or let's say it's a 15-yard crosser and you make that catch, are you going to make it a 25-yard crosser where you kind of squirm out of it and get out of bounds, or is it going to be a 17-yard crosser where you can't break free because your speed isn't as good as teams need it to be? He's also got a thin frame. He's very good vertically, horizontally not so much. He lacks weight in a way that Devonta Smith almost did. Smith coming off a Heisman year with Alabama before he got drafted by Philly. He was very thin, right? I mean, he had pencil arms pretty much, but now we see Smith is at a point where he has even a little bit, not a lot. He has gotten some muscle and he's become a little bit more physical. He's been getting a little bit better on those one-on-ones. T-Mac, he's thin, okay? I mean, weighing 212 when you're 6'5" isn't ideal. You need to be at least, I would say, 220. And that would, I mean, 8 pounds of muscle makes a big difference, especially when you're going up against guys like Ramsey, like Snead, Marlon Humphrey, even to an extent, where you're going up against these guys who are going to shut you down because they're pressing you all the time. If you're only 212, it doesn't matter how tall you are. If you can't get past them, you can't get past them. And that goes to my last con where he struggled versus physical DBs. And this is an issue for him. If you're going to be 6'5", you got to be a little bit thicker, if that makes sense. You need to be I would personally like T-Mac to be 225. I think that would probably be an ideal range for him, or maybe 220 to 225 in that range. That would definitely benefit him the most there for him in his play style. He needs to gain a little bit of weight, though, to succeed in the NFL. I keep going back to Carolina if he wants, because I have them take. I don't know if I said that or not in this, but I have Carolina taking T-Mac in mock draft 1.0. Carolina relies on a Tampa system. Let's look at what Mike Evans did with Dave Canales. Evans is a big receiver. He was big on crossers, big on go routes, and T-Mac is good at that. But look, let's compare Evans. Evans is a bigger receiver. T-Mac isn't as big, and Evans is able to break tackles and get some extra yak, while McMillan not so much. And I think that's one thing that I'd really like him to do is just add a little bit of weight, and that would probably take some of his cons away. Next up, we have Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State. Egbuka is 22, going to turn 23 soon. He is 6 foot and he weighs 200. So again, a completely different play style. This is a completely different guy. He's a slot receiver totally. And Egbuka, Ohio State fan, he definitely is a very strong player, very reliable. I remember him on the sidelines always, I'm not going to say constantly, but he was definitely breaking down film there. So he definitely is a good receiver. Where he goes is going to be very interesting because he could definitely find himself taken as early. I think Dallas has the 12th or 13th pick, if I remember right. I'm not totally sure which pick they have. He can definitely go that early. That wouldn't necessarily surprise me. I know Green Bay is interested in him, and there's a bunch of teams from like 15 to 27 that could use Egbuka. But where he goes is definitely going to be interesting. I think the Cowboys make the most sense at this point. But let's break him down. Smooth route runner. That kind of goes without saying with his frame. He's 6 foot 200. I mean, if you weigh that, you better be a good route runner, and he is. He's smooth. I should clarify, let's compare him to a guy like Justin Jefferson. Jefferson is more of a crisp route runner than a smooth route runner. Or he's both crisp and smooth, I should say, rather. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. Like Devontae Adams is a smooth and a crisp route runner. Right now, Egbuka, just smooth. He needs to add a little bit more sharpness to his cuts, in my opinion. And if he can do that, he'd be a great route runner in the NFL. He's got a good release. That's not a problem. We saw him consistently playing at a high level and got to have it moments. And he had a good game against Oregon. I remember his other performances in the CFP with Ohio State. I knew they gave it a lot to Henderson, Judkins, and Smith. But Egbuka still played well. He's got good route run. He's got good route running ability, and that will definitely help. He is good in all areas, and I mean this literally. I'm not saying he's a Cordell Patterson type guy where you can put him as a joker and put him anywhere, but he's definitely someone who can play the slot. He can play in the backfield if you need him to. This is a guy who, let's just say, total hypothetical, the Vikings draft him. The Vikings could definitely use Egbuka as a backfield guy. Let's say that they have him and Jones with Jefferson and Addis on the outside. That's something that they can do. The Rams, same thing. Let's say they have Nacua and Tay Adams on the outside. They can use Egbuka in the slot. That's definitely or both in the slot and in the backfield. He's good in all areas, and that's both positionally and statistically. He's great in end arounds. He's good in wide receiver reverse plays. He's good in crosser routes. He's good in the deep ball. He's not amazing at tracking balls down in one-on-one areas. He needs to beat DBs or linebackers, depending on who he's on, with his speed. He's good at finding soft zones. He's got great hands for the most part. Again, and another point I want to make about his end around ability, and something I like, he does not try to do too much. He knows what's in front of him, and that's what he takes. Some receivers struggle with that. Some receivers try to do more than what is actually in front of them, and they have to take a loss of a few yards. Like Buka, he just takes what's in front of him, and that's something that some receivers struggle with. He's also good with separation. I mentioned that there was the big touchdown that he had against Oregon in the college football playoff where he just kind of beat everybody, and it was a perfectly placed ball by Will Howard there on that throw. But he is good with separation. He's typically able to get free from his guy, usually around 1-2 yards ish. Again, he's got a good release. So basically, from the snap, he's pretty much able to get freedom from whoever he's being guarded by. So overall, for what it's worth, he's a very, very good receiver. The cons, though, are notable. He got an injury history. The last 2-3 years at Ohio State, he felt like he was out almost all the time in the regular season. It was usually leg injuries, which is a big no-no in the NFL. He was hurt more 2 seasons ago. This past year, he wasn't hurt that much, but he was out for a few games, which is definitely something to keep an eye on, especially if you're a team that is cursed theoretically by an injury bug. He might be someone that you want to look out for in terms of that. He also struggles with explosiveness a little bit, and this is not a bad thing. It's almost like T-Mac, where you're saying, oh, he has average speed. That's not a bad thing. He could probably improve on it. Buka does not have the explosiveness that I'd like out of a receiver that I'd take in the first round. And I think that's why Ladd McConkey fell. Not that he was ever a first-round pick or projected to be a first-round pick anyways. Ladd McConkey, coming out of Georgia, was not someone who was explosive. He's not an explosive receiver, and that's not a bad thing. It's just the way he is. It's the way he plays. Buka, not explosive. He relies on his separation to make big plays, which isn't, again, not a bad thing, just something that as a guy who was used in end arounds and reverses and wide receiver screens and RPOs, you'd expect him to have a little bit more explosiveness than he does. He doesn't. It is what it is. Last note I want to make, he's not physical at all. Again, he relies on his release and getting by guys more than being like, getting all handsy and stuff like that. That's not something he does. Again, not necessarily a bad thing because you want to avoid OPIs in the NFL because they are calling that more a little bit as of late. But again, with T-Mac and Buka, it's more nitpicky things. This is not stuff that's, Buka's injury history is its own problem, but it's more nitpicky saying this is what these guys can improve on. It's not something that's going to hold them back dramatically as they go into the NFL. Next up, we have Matt Golden from Texas. This guy is 21, going to turn 22 soon. He is 6 foot, 194, so 6 pounds lighter than Buka. He is definitely a guy who is very fast, and you can see that by the 4.29 speed there. So let's break him down. He's very versatile. This guy can play in the slot or he can play in the outside. And for a guy who's 6 foot, that is not something you see very often. I think that's more of his big playability that Golden has. He can play in the slot, in routes, out routes, anything you need him to do, underneath, screen plays, RPOs. That is the stuff that Golden can do because he's so freaking fast. On the outside, go route, posts, fades, whatever you need him to do, because he will dust right by by whoever's guarding him almost definitely, unless it's Maxwell Hairston. He's got 4.29 speed. That's what he ran at the 40. That's what he ran on the 40 in the combine. Which was faster than Isaiah Bond, who said he was going to break the record, and Bond ran like a 4.4, I think, which was very disappointing. Golden, though, ran 4.29, which is incredible. Four low or high, anywhere in the 4.2 is great. Doesn't matter what position you play, 4.2 is great, and that's what Golden ran. He's definitely fast. And he's got elite acceleration, and that is something that I think is slept on. Golden's acceleration has really made him a very unique player at Texas. Again, I'm going to go back to that big playability. This is a guy who can beat you easily, and if he makes a catch underneath, he will easily dust right by you. And is that his speed? It might be. I think it's more of his acceleration. He's got elite acceleration, in my opinion. He can definitely get to the second level very easily on those underneath plays. His cons: consistency with speed. Here's my concern. He ran a 4.29 at the combine. I don't know if he has 4.29 speed. He's fast. I think that's partially due to his acceleration. I just hope that he can continue. I mean, if he's a 4.29 guy consistently, great. Xavier Worthy ran a 4.21. He played like he was a 4.21, 4.2, 4.21 and 4.25 kind of guy. He played at that speed. Golden at Texas played like he was a more mid 4.3s. Still fast, but not something that's gonna. It's quote unquote game breaking. I don't. It's iffy there. I just hope he can be consistent with that. Also, this is a league where you're taking bigger hits than you ever have before, and he's again 194 he is a thinner guy. I just hope that he can kind of find my hope for him. I hope that he can find like a middle ground with his speed. There are some players that just turn up on certain plays. They just know when they need to use their speed and when not to. Saquon Barkley is a great example of that. He will ground and pound, but if he finds a hole, he will turn on the jets because he's good at conserving his energy. Matthew Gold needs to do that. Another thing, he struggles in medium levels, and I think that's a problem that all speedster deep threat guys have. This is not a Matthew Golden specific problem. Many receivers have this issue where they are so focused on getting deep or getting open, both when they have the ball and when they don't have the ball, that they struggle a little bit to make those plays in the middle of the field. Again, with experience, this is something that can easily fix with Matthew Golden. I like him a lot. I don't know what the media's perspective is on him. I'm pretty sure it's generally positive, but still, Matthew Golden, I think, definitely find a consistency with his speed and get a little bit better in the medium levels. So like 12 to 22 yards ish. If he can get better in that area, then he's fine. I think he's definitely a first round receiver. I mean, that 4.29 is pretty, so he's probably going to go in the first round there. Next up, we have Luther Burden. Luther Burden from Missouri. He's 21, going to turn 22. He's 5'11", 205. This is a guy who was a freak 2 years ago when Missouri was top 10 in the country. Last year, they had a down year because I think Brady Cook got hurt, and it was a whole big mess there. But still, Luther Burden played pretty well. I think he slept on a little bit. I think Luther Burden doesn't get the respect that he deserves. This is a guy who we have seen consistently play at a pretty high level with Missouri, and Missouri is a team that you're going to see on like ABC at noon playing South Carolina. Not a game they're going to – I mean, it's a game they'll turn on, but you're like, I'll just turn it on waiting for Alabama and Georgia to play at 4. This is a game. Luther Burden, though, always impressed me. 2 years ago, I always thought he was good. He decided to stay for one more year, and Missouri was supposed to have a big year, maybe even make the playoffs. They did not. They had a pretty poor year, but still, Luther Burden, definitely a good receiver. Let's break him down. Strong contested catch ability. That's his thing. He's a contested catcher. And for a guy who is 5'11", he is good at that. And I think that's due to his athleticism, and he's able to track balls down. I think he's up there with T-Mac in terms of that. He might even be better than T-Mac in that area, but Luther Burden, absolutely a stud in those contested catch areas. He's got good explosiveness, and agility, and he's a strong blocker too. I'll combine all three of those. For a receiver who is 5'11", if you're a great blocker, that says a lot about you. I don't think he tends to take plays off. Some receivers do that. I don't think Luther Burden's one of them. He's a great receiver, in my opinion. Can definitely make really any catch that he needs to. He's explosive, like I said, and he can definitely break away, and breakaway speed is definitely important. I don't remember where I had Luther Burden going. I'm pretty sure I had him as a first round pick, but I don't remember where he got drafted in my last mock. But this is definitely a late first round guy, in my opinion. Could sneak into the second round depending on how how many teams trade up for a quarterback in the late rounds, like the Giants trade up for a Dart or Sanders if he falls, or Milrow or whoever trades up for a quarterback, then you might see Burden fall, but he's a late first round guy in my opinion. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the pros. Let's look at his cons. He lacks elite wideout one speed in my opinion. When you're 5'11", and again, this is something, it's not a bad thing because you're great at, you check all the other boxes for, I mean, pretty much for the most part. The problem is when there's a difference between being explosive and being fast. He's explosive. He will make the play. He'll make the 40-yard screen play touchdown, that with one blocker in front of him when there's three guys that will pump the crowd up. But I don't know if he's going to have that breakaway end around speed where he's going to get a 70-yard touchdown run against an NFL defense. That's something where I don't think he's good at. Again, not his game. So it's not really a big problem in my opinion, but it is what it is there. He is also a very inconsistent route runner. Again, I mean, he needs to figure out, are you going to be an aggressive route runner or are you going to be a silky route runner? You got to either find a middle ground, do something there. He switches that up a little bit too much, and it kind of becomes a little bit predictable, and that's an issue with some receivers have. You might be good, and all of a sudden if you have a deep route, that's great English that I just said there. If you have a deep route and you're running aggressive because he's got a good contested catch ability, that's going to kind of give away what you're running. You know, if the DB reads you, because that's what they do, they watch hours and hours of film. Let's say you have a certain release and press coverage on a go route where you're running aggressively so you can get past the receiver. That's going to give away what you're doing. Let's say it's a little bit silkier because you're going to run an in route or a crosser or something like that on a play action play. Then that's going to give it away. If he can be a little bit more consistent and not give away as much as he did, I think that can definitely benefit him a little bit. He also doesn't have much experience on the outside. He is mostly a slot guy, which again isn't a bad thing. It's just I would wish he played a little bit more on the outside than he did when he was at Missouri. It is what it is there. I think he could definitely use some experience on the outside, maybe in OTAs and training camp. That's an area that he can definitely use help in my opinion. Next up, Jaden Higgins, who is one of the more interesting receivers in this draft class. If you asked me at the beginning of the season, tell me about Jaden Higgins, I would have told you, who is that? Jaden Higgins from Iowa State, who actually has two very good receivers in this draft class, which is kind of interesting. Higgins is 22, going to turn 23. He is 6'3", 210. So he's got a good frame, and that you can see that in the pros. I'm just going to break him down really quick. He's got a big frame. Okay. I mean, when you're 6'3", 210, that is something that is going to benefit you and you only. He uses his physicality to his advantage. He blocks pretty well. He is good in pretty much all areas. Like I said, he's good blocking. He's good underneath. He's good intermediately. He's good deep. He's good everywhere. He's got very reliable hands, and that is stuff that makes a good receiver. He on paper, Higgins, I think I think he's solid. I think he's better than Jalen Noel. In my opinion, Higgins is the fifth best receiver in this class behind the four guys who I just showed you. I think definitely Higgins is underrated a little bit. He could sneak his way into the first round depending on how stock goes in the next few weeks. But he's definitely an interesting player. I think right now he's probably a second round talent. That's kind of how it goes for a lot of receivers. But I think Higgins is a very good player. Only con, though, is he lacks explosiveness after big plays. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean this. Makes a 25-yard catch. Let's say it was a deep crosser, and he's in almost the middle of the field. He doesn't have that consistent breakaway speed that's going to result in a touchdown. Let's just say you're at your own 45. 25-yard catch puts you at the opponent's 30, and it's a big play. One high safety. It's man coverage. No, let's say zero coverage, and he beats him, and he makes that catch, but he's not able to necessarily have that breakaway speed to result that play in a touchdown. Now he is big. So I think that's something you take with a grain of salt. You're saying, oh, well, this guy is big, but he doesn't have great speed. That's how it works for some receivers. Same thing with T-Mac, who's 6'5", Higgins is 6'3", 210, and he doesn't have incredibly good speed. But again, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It's not something that's going to screw him up when draft time comes. All right, let's do my wide receiver rankings here. This is my top 10 big board right here, and I'm going to something I don't think I've done in the other draft, or maybe I have. I think I did in the quarterback one. I don't know if I did in the running back one. Is I'm going to do projected draft rounds, in my opinion. So Ted McMillan definitely is the best one in this class, in my opinion. He's a first round pick, top 12. If it doesn't go in the top 12, I'd be very surprised. Egbuka, mid first round pick there, in my opinion. I think Dallas probably scoops him up, but maybe Green Bay. I just saw that they were planning on meeting with him. Matt Golden is probably a mid to late first round pick out of Texas. Luther Burden, late first, early second kind of guy. And then basically from there, it's second, third round pick range. Higgins is an early second, in my opinion. Trey Harris from Ole Miss, who is got a little hated on for being a stat patter, which he was, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think he's probably a late second, early third guy. Elick Ayomanor from Stanford, I think, and I don't think that's his. Ayomanor from Stanford, who was fantastic against Colorado 2 years ago. He is definitely a top receiver in this class, in my opinion. He's probably he's not one of the top. He's one of the more notable mid-round guys. I'd say probably late second, early third for Ayomanor too. Isaiah Bond, probably mid-third, late third. There's no chance he falls into day 3, in my opinion, with Isaiah Bond. Jack Beck, who has been getting a lot of support for being a second-round pick. I personally don't think he's a second-round pick. I think he's more of a fourth-round pick. If he falls out of the fourth round, I'd be very surprised. Same thing with Jalen Noel out of Iowa State. Jack Beck is from TCU, if I didn't mention that. Jalen Noel, Iowa State there. Isaiah Bond from Texas, if I didn't mention that either. Jalen Noel I would expect him to be a fourth-round guy behind Jack Beck. So those are my top 10 receivers in this draft class, in my opinion. I think those are probably the best receivers. It's a pretty medium level group. I've seen B grades for it, and I think that's probably fair. Again, this is not a class that's going to blow you away. It's definitely a good one. T-Mac, Egbuka, Golden, those are the three main ones. After that, it gets a little bit light, but still not a bad draft class. And where some of these guys go will definitely shape the draft. And yeah, this is Talking Football, and that's what I got to say about that.